That's right, bless like the Buddhas, but bless all the time. Nibbana, to be given evenly, whether it is samsara or not, it is equally shared to all. It's the same thing. But in the meantime, in the meantime, there is still the belief values from the vows, which is the fixation to the vows. Therefore, those who bless are focusing on the beings. They are crashes beyond the vows. This is not about letting go of the vows. Everything. There is no need to put the target on the beings only. It's meant for everything. Beyond the vows. Beyond the vows of blessing. Everything. Therefore, the nature, mountains, trees, water, air, earth, fire, beings or non-beings, elements, they will be equally shared. Everything. This will lessen the power of crutches with the beings. When there is the crutches with the beings, the result is the Vedana, the sensations, the unbearable sensations, feeling empathy for them, feeling sympathy for them, all about the suffering, the act of the suffering. If not beyond the vows of the blessing will be imbalanced because of the clashing with the beings. Or the well-wishing, it is a kind of act of suffering. Everything. Because it includes everything in the samsara, whether they are the beings or non-beings, includes all. This has been like an attitude, a belief values about blessing beings, looking only towards the beings, the sentient beings. This is not covering all, aiming towards just the beings, why they are so dark, why they are not liberated. This is conflicting with the beings, pushing them, forcing them. This is the act of the suffering. This is the blind spot for those who still having the vows of blessing beings, which is not beyond the vows itself. This is not just beyond the prediction of blessing beings, but also beyond the vows of blessing beings. How to correct this? We use another kind of essential code, everything. If you aim towards blessing anyone, there will not be such a kind of belief values. What is there to having to bless anybody? When you use the word everything, that's it. Because blessing all and everything, blessing the trees, the grass, the sand, because it's already not attached, not detached, all the same as it is. There is no conditions because there is already not attached or detached in itself. Why bless? There is no need to have to bless because it's all the same, not attached or detached. Just proceed all together simultaneously with everything. That's all. When you are imbalanced in blessing, it's exhausting because when you use the word everything as an essential code, there is no need to be imbalanced and to be exhausted with blessing. This is a belief values. Even karmic habits is also a kind of belief values. Karmic habits is a kind of familiarity. With this kind of attitude, with that kind of attitude, all the belief values is a kind of act of suffering. They are all the acts of suffering. They are actually the attitude that is suffering in itself. Even the idea that is about the future, which is having the attitude of suffering in front of you, even now, such a kind of belief values is already suffering. Because there is still a fixation to belief values. It's already suffering in itself. There is no need to look for the future time. Even the attitude of with happiness is still suffering in itself. This is deceiving with the language. The enlightenment is already anicca, dukkha, anatta. There is no such a thing as sukha, which is happiness. This is the elaboration from the opinions and meanings by the desire, which is misleading it. All the wishes are in themselves the suffering. Wishing for happiness is itself the suffering, the desire. Using the suffering as the cause in order to get happiness, what will you get? What will you get? There is just suffering. All the obstacles of the bodhisattvas is the vows, the monk said. And the obstacles of the arahants, the enlightened ones, are the karmic habits. Luang Por said that the obstacles of the enlightened ones or the arahants are the vows of the blessing, which is the karmic habits of the vows. For the arahants, they have set up for the liberation of the suffering. So they are aiming towards liberation of suffering only. Therefore, they have such a habit with them. Therefore, when they come to the end, when they already reaching liberation of suffering, they will not go on further towards sharing the great compassion. But now we don't have to talk about the obstacles of the arahants. There is no such a thing. At this era, there is no obstacles for the blessing. Just everything like this, that's it. What is there that is difficult with this? For the arahants, there is no such a thing with the idea of difficult or easy. Because for them, there is no such thing as having or not having already as it is. Just move on with everything, that's all. Already the great compassion is splendid. For the arahants, there's not much. Actually, the obstacles is the vows that has been aiming and having the vows for liberation of suffering, not to have any more incarnations, which is the karmic habits of the belief values. Even they end the task already, but for blessing they don't upgrade at all. It's actually blocking the great compassion. That is the vows that blocking the great compassion, aiming towards liberation only. Once they come to liberation, the essence of blessing is not moved. This is considered as another kind of vows.
ส่วนกรรมหรือสายอย่างอื่นที่มันมีมาประจำขันธ์เคยบำเพ็ญทุกกิริยาในขันธ์ทั้งห้ามาอย่างไรในอินทรีย์ยตนะมาอย่างไรคือเจริญเอาตั้งเอาทำเอาเจริญเอามาอย่างไรก็ตามทีในส่วนนั้นมันเป็นคตินิยมอีกแบบหนึ่ง
For other kind of karmic habits attached to the body and the mind, relating to the past practice with the body and the mind, the five aggregates, projecting for attainment with the body and the mind, eyes, ears, nose, tongue, sound, smell, taste, touches and shapes, however it is. This is another kind of belief values.
ในการเจริญเอาในการปฏิบัติ
This is the practice for attainment.
แม้ว่าจบกิจแล้วก็ตามทีเวลามาใช้ขันธ์มันก็มักจะมีไอ้ตัวที่มันซ้อนมาเรื่อยๆ
Even the arahants have in their task. Whenever they use the body and the mind, there's always some kind of karmic habits that is overlaying, constantly overlaying. It is not the vows, but it is the belief values in the way of practicing the acts of the suffering. Practicing for attainment is called the act of the suffering, the practice of the suffering. All about cultivation for practices anything whatsoever is called the practice of the suffering. It is karmic habits. With the great compassion, it will purify already for all karmic habits all by itself automatically. The practice and projection of awareness or knowing, grasping for knowing, for awareness, for consciousness. When practicing that, this is grasping. That's why there is a practice for attainment. So whenever the body and mind starts to be assumed up to used for blessing, this kind of karmic difficulties is coming back to oneself. Therefore, purify it with everything. That's it. It will purify the karmic difficulties that is attached to the body and the mind, the aggregate. For all the aggregates, the Mahakaruna, the great compassion will purify for all the aggregates, body, mind.
สังฆวัฏเนี่ยหรือทุกอย่างเนี่ยเมตกรรมหรือสายทั้งหลายของผู้ปลดเองก็หมดไปด้วยมหากรุณา
In this samsara, even the karmic habits of those who bless will also be purified by the great compassion.
คำว่าทุกอย่างกับคำว่าทุกอย่าง
The word everything, the word everything. It is the great compassion that is not aiming specifically for samsara, not being specific for just the sentient beings, but everything. This will purify the vows as well. The vows of bodhisattvas, the vows of the arahants, which are still the karmic difficulties of the belief values. It is a kind of difficulties, troublesome. Blessing beings beyond the vows. Because it's not being specific, just blessing the beings. It's everything. Bless everything. It will purify the vows at the same time. Don't you see the habits of each one? Let's go to bless. This is the
ไปโปรดสัตว์กันไหม
habits of the vows
แล้วตรงนี้
to bless beings somewhere. How about here?
เห็นนิสัยของปณิธาน
You see the karmic habits, the habits of the vows, the habits of eating. When you go towards everything, proceed with everything, it's done.
รวมหมดเลยนะ
Because it includes the beings and non-beings, purify all together simultaneously.
ปณิธานนิยมมันยังเป็นทุกข์
The vowism is the suffering and the troublesome in itself.
ความหลุดพ้นเนี่ยเป็นปณิธาน
Liberation is vows or not? Yes, it
นิพ
is.
พานเนี่ยไม่มีติดไม่มี
Nibbana has no
ฉะนั้นในติด
attachment or
เนี่ย
non-attachment.
เกิดขึ้นจากตัณหา
Attachment and non-attachment
แต่นิธิ
is derived from the desire, creates opinions and meanings,
นิยมพวกหนึ่งก็นิยมติดพวกหนึ่งก็นิยม
favoring
นิยมแล้วใช่ไหม
attachment,
นิยมแล้ว
favoring
แต่เราไม่เข้าใจว่าเป็น
non-attachment.
คตินิยม
This
แต่
is
นิยม
called
นิพพานเนี่ย
belief
เดี๋ยว
values.
ก็ไม่เกี่ยว
This has nothing to do with Nibbana, even a tiny bit is
นิพ
not.
พานเนี่ยไม่เกี่ยวทั้งเกี่ยว
Nibbana
ไม่เกี่ยว
has nothing to do with relating or not relating.
เท่านั้นมันเป็นคตินิยม
The rest is just the belief
คตินิยม
values.
ทั้งหลายเนี่ยจัดว่าเป็น
All belief values is considered as
ถ้าตัวคติมันก็เป็นทุกข์ในตัว
the
คติ
attitude
เอง
of suffering. The attitude itself is suffering in itself.
ดังนั้นที่
Therefore,
ไม่เกี่ยวทั้งเกี่ยว
to
ไม่
not
เกี่ยว
relate to
ทุกอย่าง
either relating or not
ไม่เกี่ยว
relating
ไม่เกี่ยว
is with
อย่างเงี้ย
everything.
มันจะไร้ร่องรอย
With this,
ล้าง
it will purify without traces equally, without limits,
อันนี้ว่าสุญญตา
which is sunyata, is called emptiness, purifying equally with everything.
แต่ถ้าไปมุ่งแค่ติด
If
มุ่งแค่
aiming towards
เนี่ย
just
ปุถุชนก็มุ่งติดอริยะก็มุ่ง
attaching
หลุด
or
หรือ
detaching,
ปุถุชนมุ่ง
the commoners will aim
มุ่งแค่
towards
เป็นอริยะ
attaching. Noble ones will just aiming towards detaching. This is not yet beyond belief values.
จริงๆเนี่ยมัน
Nibbana
ติดไม่มีหลุด
has nothing to do with liberating or not liberating,
เนี่ยมันเหมือนกับที่
attaching or detaching. This is created by
ตัณหา
desire,
ปรุงแต่งทิฏฐิสร้างขึ้นในคติ
creating opinions and ideas and meanings.
เรียกว่าทุกขติ
This is called the attitude of suffering.
ไม่ต้องชี้ไปข้างหน้าหรอก
There is no need to point out in the future.
ตัวที่อยู่นี่มันก็เป็นทุกขติแล้วในตัว
Where you are is
ชี้
itself
ไปข้างหน้าเลย
the suffering.
ถ้านิยมอะไรขึ้นมามันก็เป็น
Whatever you are
ทุกขติในตัว
favoring
นั่นแหละ
is the suffering in itself. There is no need to point out to the future at all.
นิยมเห็นนิยมใน
Favoring, looking, seeing,
นิยมในการ
favoring in thinking, in giving opinions and meanings, knowing that, seeing that, feeling that.
เป็นคตินิยม
This is a kind of belief values. It is another kind of state of favoring,
นิยมสภาวะนิยมมันนิยม
favoring, giving value to the mind,
เดี๋ยวนี้
which is the suffering right now, is not the future. Where are you pointing
ดั
to?
งนั้นสิ่งที่มันไม่เกี่ยวทั้ง
Therefore,
เกี่ยว
that
ไม่
which
เกี่ยว
has nothing to do with
มันไม่ใช่
relating
ระบบนิย
or
ม
not relating is not a kind of
ไม่ใช่ภาวะ
favoring,
นิยมไม่ใช่ทิฏฐิ
is
นิ
not
ยม
a
ไม่ใช่
state
คติ
of
นิยม
ism,
ไม่ใช่อุดมการณ์นิย
is
มไม่ใช่ปณิธาน
not
นิยม
about
มันจบ
idealism.
ไม่ยุติตัวนิยมให้นี่เรายุติตัณหา
This is not vowism. It's giving ending to all kind of ism, all kinds of giving values to anything.
ไม่ยุติตัวนิยมให้นี่เรายุติตัณหา
Giving ending to the ism or favoring or giving value to anything is called giving ending to the desire.
เรียกว่ายุติตัวยุติเอง
This is called ending the ending itself. That's it. It's done. Everything.
อย่าไปแบ่งแยกอะไร
Don't divide anything from anything.
ดังนั้นถ้ามันนิยมในยึดนิยมในไม่ยึดพวกหนึ่งก็นิยมในการยึดติดพวกหนึ่งก็นิยมในความไม่ยึดติดก็ต้องล้างทิ้งทั้งสองอย่างไม่ยึดมันทั้งยึดทั้งไม่ยึดนั่นแหละ
So when there is a favor in attaching or non-attaching, there's a groupism in attaching. Another groupism is in non-attaching. So we have to purify and dissolve both ism, not attached to either attaching or not attaching.
พวก
Sometimes we give value or favor relating. Sometimes we give values or favor to non-relating. This is giving value to yes and no, is and is not. Therefore, dissolve all. It isn't either is or isn't. Not related to either relating or not relating. In this way, there is ending. Ending the belief values, ending the favors, ending the values. Not related to either relating or not relating. Purify everything, dissolve all. If there is still relating or not relating, there is still belief values. It is the desire of opinions and meanings. When there is favoring or values, there must be the desire that is creating it. The desire misleading it to be in such a way. There is groupism in letting go. Another groupism is in not letting go. This is all about ism, valueism. It is a kind of opinions and meanings, which is another kind of ism. Dissolve both, letting go or not letting go. Don't let there be any leftover of letting go or not letting go at all. Letting go of both letting go or not letting go. Let go of the letting go itself. Letting go of the not letting go itself. Letting go of both letting go and not letting go. It's over. End the vowism. End the idealism. Because this is all about the desire, fabricate opinions and meanings. Totally. It is samsara. It is the circling. It is the karma and karmic difficulties in itself. Circling in itself. This is gonna be in the ending itself, the ceasing itself, not attached to the non-attachment itself. This will give ending. And go on with everything. There is no need to choose anything at all. With everything, it's not about you choosing. Everything that is not attached to either attachment or non-attachment. Everything is not related to either relating or not relating. What does it mean, do you know? This means that there is no meanings already in everything. There's already the purification without traces already for everything. In other words, it's called the purification of the emptiness, or it is called the purification of Nibbana for everything. Each time that you think of everything, all various forms of attachment in the past, which has been specifying with each thing, each matter, will be decreased. Everything.
แล้วมันก็เกิดการผูกมัดรัดรึงอยู่ในจุดนั้นน่ะมันจะคลายออกกับคำว่าทุกอย่าง
Your aims towards fixation or attachment towards anything whatsoever, its result is the firm attachment. With everything, such clinging, such a firm fixation will be released.
เหมือนกับว่าเธอออกจากซอยของตัวเอง
Just like you're getting out of your own lane, out of your own darkness, because everything is further and beyond your own angle of darkness. This is like the lotus flower is blossoming, and it is discarding the blossoming state also. It is not just blossom out of the bud, but it is also blossom out from the blossoming state. This is the sign of the non-obstruction, no fixation, no conflict. It is on the way of discarding the blossoming state. When you think of everything, is there anything you can get from it? Because the delusive attachment can only grab each thing at each time. The fixation can only be done step by step, one or two things at a time. Once your mind assumes everything, the delusive attachment cannot go on. Once there is a conclusion of the essence of the enlightenment, is already done. What is it? Everything. Not related to either relating or not relating altogether. Not attached to attachment or non-attachment altogether. Not attached to even the non-attachment altogether with everything. Everything, what does it mean? It is the conclusion of Nirodha and Nibbana for everything. Making a conclusion for everything towards ending for everything.